Hi Home Inspire, I'm Josie. Welcome to my home in West London. Come and have a look around. I bought the flat 18 months ago. It was a 1-bedroom garden flat and I've carried out a side return extension to make it into a 2-bed garden flat. So when I bought the flat, this was actually originally the reception room, but it was the room I really fell in love with because of all of the period details. We did quite a lot to it. We actually had to take half the floorboards up to just adjust some of the structure underneath because there was quite a lot of rotten wood, which means that we had to level the flooring out. There was originally a fireplace here, which we took out, unfortunately, but I've recreated that in the extension, and that was a really important fact to me. We've then built in a full wall of wardrobes, and I sanded back and restained the original floorboards. We've then put in new cast iron radiators, which was originally in a really random place that just meant the room was really, really cold. And then it's all been redecorated. We repaired some of the ceiling and basically just tried to keep as much of the original detail that was originally here for afterwards, because ultimately that's what I really loved about it. But it's made a really great master bedroom. So I've done a lot of stuff in the flat myself, including making the lampshades. There are wall lights. I really wanted to have clear surfaces, so I had to struggle to find wooden side tables that then I've sanded back and used like a lime wax on just to make them look a bit prettier. One of the other details actually that I really made sure we wanted to do, keep big chunky skirting boards. So originally in the Victorian flats that you have really tall skirtings, and so often people take them out and give you short ones, which I just think is really awful. So these ones actually I think are really nice. They're all new everywhere. They're also then the same skirting in the whole flat. When I moved in, I think there were 8 different types of skirting boards from where people had cut out and changed bits over the years. We kept the original windows. They're single glazed, which would be lovely to change, but budget didn't allow for changing them. They're in really good order. They had been restored a few years ago. So I've changed all of the hardware to brass because I just think it looks nicer than chrome. It's quite basic. I didn't go too bold with colours. It's very white everywhere, but it's pretty. And then behind you, you've got the big wardrobes, which are actually an IKEA Pax hack. So we've made them look like they're built in, but they are built in now, but they're a nice, cheaper, affordable option. So I think this might actually be my favourite room in the flat because it's the pink room. I would probably have painted the whole flat pink, but I thought that wouldn't be sensible. So in here it's painted Middleton Pink by Farrow and Ball, and in theory is the room we actually probably did the least to, because this was originally the bedroom anyway. The setup would have been very similar to this. The wardrobes were already here. We've just painted those as well, and I've put on new Anthropology handles. Then we took up the carpet and then we sanded the floor here, and again I've stained it so that then the bedrooms have the same flooring. New skirtings everywhere. There wasn't a fireplace here. I still debate with whether I should put one back in, but I think it's probably better not to. But yeah, otherwise it was just cosmetic really, which was nice and easy. Some really good storage up there actually, which is very useful. And then you can look out through the window, which is really lovely in this flat. So what's really unique about this flat is even though it's a ground floor garden flat, there's actually a slight difference in levels, which means when we did the side return extension, you've actually got a lot of natural light that still comes in, and then you can actually see here the new wall from where we did the side return extension. So then we come down from the original flat down to where the extension starts, but first you come past the door to the cellar, and the cellar is amazing. It's like 600 square foot of cellar space under the original bedrooms, which is really, really rare to find in London. And then this door's new, this is the fire door, and then you come out through now to the extensions. Everywhere we're standing has been ripped out, but this was originally the kitchen. What I've got in here is a coat cupboard, or will be, but that's not finished, so we're not going to look at that. And then you've got the bathroom on the side here. The bathroom was probably, for the smallest room, the most effort that went into it. I was very, very particular on what I wanted, which were these beautiful, beautiful tiles from Fired Earth that I fell in love with about 12 years ago. And I've got pictures every time I'd see them in Fired Earth. They're beautiful, they're like a glass Moroccan mosaic. The original planner had wanted to basically bring it out this much further, which would have meant I couldn't have the utility room. And I was absolutely adamant on wanting space for a washer and a separate dryer. So it meant making the bathroom smaller, which is fine, like it's a 2-bedroom flat, you don't need anything bigger. So lots of the details in the bathroom, I knew that because it was such a small room, I had to really consider everything, but the non-negotiables for me were making sure that we had a window so that you get fresh air and it can ventilate easily, but it was also having a big shower, and it's a 1500 by 800 wide shower. In that we built a niche. And then I went for wall-hung sink and toilet because I thought where it's such a tight space that you can see more of the floor that way, which means it gives the illusion of more space. The bathroom was probably one of the most stressful rooms just because it was finished a month later than it should have been. I've also done a pocket door. So the pocket door means that at least you don't have it opening out anywhere, and does just mean that it can slide away and be easier. And then you come on through to the rest of the extension where it opens up to the kitchen. This is one big open plan living space that you've got your kitchen, your dining and the living space. It was really important to me to try and zone it so that you've got a separate area for kitchen, and then, I don't know, just so it wasn't one big room that didn't have any divide between it. And the kitchen naturally was where I based the whole plan off of. The plans for the kitchen, even though I changed it quite a lot throughout the process, I've actually ended up with exactly the same layout that I originally started with, which was an in-frame shaker style kitchen with an island. We had different skylights, but I actually reduced it down, and rather than having 3 separate skylights along this panel, we just put one to again zone the kitchen area here. It worked out really nicely. It also then meant it was less lifting for the builders, which saved me time and money. The rest of the kitchen, though, like I said, is all here. A lot of it was actually done, so I fitted it with my dad. It was a really trying process because I wanted this in-frame style, which is where you've got sort of the frame around the kitchen, but I chose the Chilcombe range from Howden's, which is a faux in-frame style, and means that we had to cut down every single individual panel. For me, it was about making sure everything was as seamless and integrated as it could be. So the way that you've got it in the corner, it gives you all this space, and then the oven is here. I really wanted this because of the gold and the stainless steel. The island then was kind of designed for the fact that I do a lot of baking, so I wanted a big oven, but I also wanted to be able to have a flat baking surface that then I can move over to. I really wanted a butler style sink, but they're so big and I wanted to have the storage underneath. So what we basically did was went for the reduced one, which I was absolutely really apprehensive about originally, but I think has worked nicely. And then again, it's the gold hardware basically everywhere in the whole flat. We've done the floating shelf, which has a hidden light underneath, and then it sort of comes around. You've got the corner thing that follows in here, and then the extractor, which is boxed in. It's one of those really annoying things that you have to have, but they're really ugly. And something that's quite different about this flat actually, usually in garden flats they put a window here, so I don't know why, but it would mean that then from that second bedroom you'd then look down, which just I think looks a bit strange. So I wanted that. It also gives you more wall space. Then my favourite cupboard actually is the larder, which is in here. This was basically where it was all designed around, like I said, because I like baking. I wanted to have somewhere that I could put everything away, and that's all in here. So this was a mixture from the kitchens from Howden's, but the integrated elements, the price to then have a Howden's pantry was just ridiculous. So I ordered these from a company called Pro Box, and then my brother's friend is a carpenter and he made the spice racks. And then for the island, the dimensions on it, so it's a bit smaller, but it's plenty big enough. The gap fits 2 chairs really easily. I've then got some cupboards either side, which just give you a bit of extra space. The gap actually between the island and here is 80 centimetres, which everybody said it has to be a minimum of like 95 or 100, but my view is very much, well, as long as you can open each cupboard. So where we are in the kitchen is all the extension. The original wall basically finished pretty much in line with the island, halfway down the dresser, coming over to here. And what you originally had then was the bathroom, and then the toilet, which was outside, and that's horrible to go into and out. So this was sort of the original structure. Where you all are now is all new, but what that enabled me to do was have that separation of the kitchen space to then the living area here. One of the things that I was adamant on right from the very beginning was having a false chimney breast built in, because even though this is a modern extension, I really wanted to have features that replicate, or at least I suppose are similar to the rest of the original building, and the bit that I fell in love with, which was the fireplace and the corner thing. I found a reclaimed cast iron fireplace, I think it was £50 on Facebook Marketplace, and I've sort of given that a bit of love and we put that in there. And then the corner thing has gone all around, just again to make it feel like when you're sitting here you still look like you're in a Victorian property rather than it being just completely new and modern. What was really important was then to make sure that I could have the recess to be able to have a television in here, and I'll show you why, because I don't want to see a black television screen. But then you can bring it down and you've got a TV, so that at least then the television is hidden away and you don't see a big black screen, but then it also means it's nice and cosy. I then had some old IKEA cupboards that, again, we did an IKEA hack where we built them in. I've added some additional plinth and skirting at the bottom and then built the shelves to go on top, but there is actually a steel beam that runs down here, so we had to then adjust the depth in the middle and cut this cupboard out to basically slot in like a jigsaw puzzle piece around a steel beam. But I think that the way that it works is really nice because you don't obviously notice that that's the reduced depth on those cupboards to that side. So then that leaves us with the living space here and then comes over to the dining area, which isn't yet finished. But the ultimate dream of this is to end up with a banquet bench that's got storage underneath and then the dining table. But that was sort of the reason for doing it. But then you can extend this out when you've got guests over, but also it's actually quite nice and small as it is. And then it's really lovely because you've got the extra windows either side actually. So that then takes us out to the garden, and this was a huge thing for me. I'm a country girl, I grew up in Dorset, so I wanted to make sure that I had a proper outside space. And when I was looking for a flat, I was very adamant on wanting either a south or a west facing garden. This is west, but we're also open to the south, which is really nice. So we literally get the sunshine from the morning all day, and then it sets on that side. So the garden's such a sun trap, which meant I wanted to make sure that it was a nice space to be in. I wanted to replicate the original London stock the building's made of. So you've got the yellow London stock brick here, and then these are a heritage aluminium window, which is just a more affordable option. Timber would have been lovely, but it was expensive, and Crittall is just completely not flat budget friendly. Lots of people put a bifold door in, and I thought about it, but actually for me it was more about being able to have windows that open either side just to get a really nice air circulation. And I do have the advantage of through work, you've seen a lot of properties that have bifold doors and they have a lot of problems. I wanted to have a decent flower bed and this reclaimed brick herringbone flooring because I wanted it to have that sort of like slightly cottage garden but in London. These are a reclaimed red London stock brick, and then it's made with a white cement mortar. And this was the one space that, although it happened much later than I'd originally have wanted, actually went to plan. I had so many issues with everything in the rest of the flat, and the guy who did the garden was amazing. But the rest of it out here I have done. We've sort of stripped all of the walling back, I've repainted it, there's new fences around, and then the flower bed I reclaimed sleepers, and I've stained them a dark brown to try and tie it through with the floorboards in the front a little bit, so that you get that, I don't know, slight pull through between the rooms. It's not finished, there's a lot still to do. I want to end up with storage shed and everything there, but I made sure that we've put in lots of electric points and lighting, because I think it just makes a garden feel much prettier and cosier when you've got light out there. And actually this rose, it's really nice to know, she was here originally when I bought it, so I said to the builders, you have to keep that, because originally in this garden, basically this was all decked, it was hideous, and I just didn't feel very nice, so we had all of that taken out, but that was the one plant that was still there. So we've designed the flower bed around the depth of where that rose was. You've got the original Victorian wall at the back, which is in need of repair, but equally I think it's that balance again. You want to keep bits that keep it, like, I don't know, pay homage to the original flat and make it, just a nice special place to be. Thanks, Home Inspire. You can follow my renovation journey at Josie's home. Thank you for coming and have a look around. Bye.